Welcome back to Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today's guest is been in our industry since he's a teen. He was a teen bodybuilding sensation, won a lot of titles. We're going to talk about that. But he also was a supplement company owner. He owned Betancourt Nutrition, sold that, and we're going to find out how that went. And we're going to find out what he's doing now because he's making a comeback to the industry. He's our good friend, Jorge Betancourt.
How you doing, Dave?
Hey, what a life you had, huh? I always say Jorge Betancourt had the rock star life, the bodybuilding rock star lifestyle.
Well, I've been at it a long time.
Yeah. How old are you now, George?
I'm 47. I'm going to be 48 in November.
Now, you're a young guy, but you're, considering I'm 51, I consider you young. But, for our industry, you've been around for a very, very long time because you started as a teen way before I started. And I remember looking in the magazines and when I was just getting into it, because I got into it a little later in my probably early 20s, and I remember you were all over the place. I mean, you were like the guy. Everyone was grooming you to be, the next big thing. And you had a lot of success early on in your career. How did you get introduced to bodybuilding, early on, or that early on? Because you really started young.
Dave, I've always admired muscles and strength on a man. When I lived in Puerto Rico, I saw my father as a young, when I was a young boy, maybe 7 or 8. I saw him go to the rooftop on the house.
Right. And
on the top of the roofs up there, we would keep storage. And he must have had like a weight set up there. And he would train up there. Now, I'm not saying consistent or anything like that, but I would see him go up there every once in a while. And I just thought that was part of being strong and being a man. And it always made an impact on me. I don't think he trained a lot or anything, but I think my father always exercised.
Right.
And
did he have a physique? Did he have muscle that you can see?
I don't think so. I was so young when I saw that I can't even visually I can't even envision right now. I can't. I don't recall him having a muscular body, but he always exercised. Like he walked a lot. He did push-ups and sit-ups. That kind of training. Not gym training.
Right. So what made you say, I want to start lifting weights? And at what age did you start?
I started playing around. I played around with it a few times when I was maybe 11 or 12. But I got too sore and I stopped. It wasn't until the 8th grade, in the middle of the 8th grade, where I saw some kids in the 8th grade that were training. And I guess they were just doing biceps, biceps, and their arms grew. And they were wearing, they would roll up their sleeves at school. And I saw these biceps, and one of them had like a vein on their arm, and his name was Julio. And I just kind of wanted to have that vein on my arm, man. That vein here. And we became good friends, and I started training with him on his backyard. And I just got hooked on it. It was towards the end of 8th grade. And then somehow we separated, and I just kept going in my house. And then from my house, I met another guy named Oscar, and his father bought him the Joe Weider weight set, I believe it was, the weight set.
Uh-huh.
And then I moved on to his backyard, and then he quit, and I just didn't want to quit, and I kept down in my room doing push-ups and sit-ups.
Oh. Where were you living at that point?
What's that?
Where were you living at that time?
Here in Miami. Okay. And I had read in a magazine that in order for your body to change, you had to give your the routine that you were following, you had to give it 3 months. So I stuck to it for 3 months.
Right.
You know, so I go, okay, I'm going to continue doing these push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups for 3 months, and that's when you're going to see your first change. You know, and then I saw changes.
Right.
But then I wanted more, and then I read on the same, and in another article, that your next set of changes will come 6 months after. So then I had to dedicate another 6 months.
Yeah. So you got hooked. You got hooked on the iron game, essentially. When did you start changing the way you were eating? Did you realize that like nutrition was important?
I didn't change that until a while after. So what happened was when I started training, when I figured I needed to do another 6 months, I felt like I didn't have enough in my house. You know, like I had like those things to do, push-ups. I had a pull-up bar. I had sit-ups. I begged my mom to sign me up in a gym, and then my mom signed me up in a gym, and then but my food intake to that point was TV dinners, McDonald's or Burger King. I thought I needed to eat high calories to gain weight. I didn't know that you had to eat healthy to gain muscle. I thought gaining weight was muscle. So in order to gain muscle or weight, what I was trying to do was just eat high calories. So I would look at the TV dinners, and the TV dinners were like 2,000 calories.
So you were eating those.
So I would eat the TV dinners with the chicken and mashed potato and the
whatever
brownie.
happened to the word TV? No one calls them TV dinners anymore, right? Now they're like these high.
I don't even think. I think they're probably they're banned, or they're probably.
Yeah, God knows what was really in those TV dinners. Now, at some point, you decided you were going to get on stage, and obviously, you were very successful. What age did you first compete?
My first competition was at 16. So what happened was when I signed up in that gym, I'd met this kid named Alex who was 15 years old, but he was strong, and he was doing incline with 2 plates.
Right.
You know, and I'm here doing inclines with, I don't know, with 10 pounds in each side. And we became friends, and we became friends, and that's how I was introduced to this whole, you know, steroid thing at such a young age.
So were they using steroids in the gym at that age, 15?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that as when we get to the competition thing. But I want to talk about how I got introduced. So I met this kid. He didn't introduce me to him at the gym. We became good friends. And one day we were walking to the fair. And on the way back from the fair, he tells me, "Hey, there's this thing called steroids." And at first I thought he was talking about like meteorites and steroids. I'm serious, man. I thought he was talking about meteorites.
You had no clue. Yeah, you were clueless.
I love all that stuff, all that space stuff.
Yeah.
So he had to explain to me that you get the stuff in a needle and you put it in your butt, and I'm like, what? So from, you know, I don't know how I don't know what happened there, but somehow I got introduced to DECA, and at 14 years old.
Wow.
14 and a half, yeah, but it was 14. Legal back then.
No, I know. Yeah, you can go into a pharmacy and get it, but 14, that's crazy. What was the dosages like when you first started? Do you even remember?
1 bottle of DECA a week.
So it was like 200 milligrams, right?
That's it.
And how much muscle did you put on when you did that?
You know, Dave, what happened was, the reason why I started working out was because the doctor had recommended that I go to the gym because I had gotten sick. Right before I started the gym, the reason why I wanted to go to the gym, or one of the reasons, again, we're talking about a long time ago. We're talking about 34 years ago. One of the reasons why I started working out too was because I had gotten a stomach virus along with throwing up. And at that time, I was 4'10" or 4'9". I hadn't started, I was short. I was in 8th grade, and I had gotten a stomach virus. And I was weighing, at that point, like maybe 114 pounds, and I went down to like 106. I went down to 106 pounds.
Wow.
So my mom took me to the doctor, and I had this diarrhea and throwing up, and he recommended that I start working out. I started working out, but I couldn't put on the weight. And then that's when this kid introduced me to the whole asteroid thing and meteorite thing.
How much weight did you gain the first cycle you did?
I think I got up to 118 pounds. I did DECA for 6 weeks, one shot a week. But then after 6 weeks, he told me there was a thing called testosterone. So I did that for another 6 weeks.
Right.
And then I got up to 126 pounds, I think.
That's another 10 pounds. That's pretty big, yeah.
Yeah, and that was just one shot a week. By that time, I had met some powerlifters at the gym. And those guys really took me under their wing, because my buddy Alex, which was my best friend and I really care for him, unfortunately, he had turned into other drugs, and he started hanging around with a bad crowd, and he ended up in jail. And I didn't want to go that route, and I really loved the whole strength thing and powerlifting and bodybuilding, and I knew that what I was doing wasn't the best thing, but I figured at that point it was a very turning point in my life, because that was my best friend, and I tried to get him off drugs. I mean, that was when crack was around. He got hooked on crack.
Wow. Oh my.
And cocaine and crack and all that stuff.
At 15, 16?
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Yeah. And I love that, man. I love that kid to death, man. And I just couldn't go that route, So I figured, okay, let me stick to this thing. It's probably not the best thing in the world, but I love working out,
right.
And I love this new thing that I found, and it kept me away from going in that direction, because that direction, not only was there drugs, but the friends that he began to hang around with, they were using him, because his parents had a little bit of money, so I knew that they were using him, and they were into fighting and shoplifting and robbing people.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, they even got to the point where they were going to the pharmacy and rob the pharmacies.
Oh boy! So this was back in what, the 80s in Miami? So was that a big cocaine?
86, 87.
Yeah, was that a big cocaine time there, or what was the drug scene like in Miami?
That was the whole drug scene where cocaine and I guess marijuana too. I was a young boy and I was afraid of all of that. My mom always pushed me away from all that stuff. Right. And then, like we all grew up, we all have friends that were into that stuff, and we all either did it or chose to stay away from that. I didn't want to go that route, at that point in my life, I was kind of lost, I knew that school wasn't for me. I didn't,
So were you not going to school? Were you cutting out of school and stuff like that at that point?
I never cut out of school because I was afraid to cut out. I just went to school and just stood there, and I just became like the Joker, like I just made everybody laugh and
you didn't take it seriously, in other words.
Exactly.
So did you graduate from high school?
I graduated. I graduated with a GED.
Okay, so you took the GED. When you realize, all right, you know what? I don't want to go to school. It's not for me. I have no intention on going to college. Now you kind of put yourself in the situation. I got to make money, right? And I got to find something that I'm good at. Was bodybuilding making you feel good enough at that time that you were like, man, I can do this for a career?
Well, what happened was, when I got in 10th grade, I won my first competition in 10th grade. Right. Which was the Southern States Teenage Championship. I won my weight class, and I won the overall. Not the overall, the most promising. My weight class is the most promising. I was 16 years old. So imagine, now I'm in 10th grade, and I'm like this bodybuilder kid in 10th grade who won this big championship, So this is starting to fulfill my ego, and make me feel good. And in 10th grade, I'm walking around with my head high, this big ego thing, everybody's looking at me now. And then I'm going, okay, let me try another competition. So then I enter another show, and I won my class there, and I won some other award in 10th grade. And then I go, man, I'm pretty good at this. Let me keep focusing and let me focus more. So then 11th grade came around, and when 11th grade came around, I won the Team USA. Imagine that.
Yeah.
And
Now, what was they don't have a Team USA anymore, but back then that was a big show. I think it was held in Miami, right?
The Team USA was in Florida. Where was the Team USA? No, the Team USA was in Lauderdale. Correct.
Yeah. Now, at that point, what kind of steroid cycles were you using? Now that you're on stage, are you upping the dosage a little bit?
Yes. I think DECA was. Okay, let me think clearly. Okay, because I don't want to give you the wrong number. I think I think test could have been anywhere like 400 milligrams, DECA 200.
Okay.
Equipoise like 150 milligrams.
Yeah, that's all that people used back then because they were 50 milligrams
for a week.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's a typical dosage back then. People didn't use a lot back in the 80s,
No, because back then, look, Dave, which is what people, and I'm sure you understand, people back then were afraid of the steroids, okay? People were afraid. So because people were afraid, it took less, and then they relied more on working out and eating, okay? But what happened throughout the years, people started realizing that steroids weren't killing anyone.
Right.
So when they started realizing that steroids weren't killing anyone, the dosages started going up higher and higher. So what happens is when this dosages started going higher and higher, well, guess what? Now you got to work out less, or you could work out less, and you could eat less.
Yeah.
But back then it was all about freaking eating to the freaking T and working out till you die.
Right.
Because the steroids that you were taking were very little, because you didn't know if they were going to kill you or not.
Especially when you're a teenager, it's got to be a little scary too.
Yeah. Back then we were terrified.
What was the show that you won that kind of put you on the map? The Teenage USA?
Well, the one that built my confidence the most was the Team USA. I went in there and I won my weight class, and I was in high school.
Right.
And I was still young. I was 17 years old. And then then I told myself at that moment, oh man, I'm going to do this for life, or for a long time. So what I did was I committed myself. I read on a paper, on a little booklet, that the Teen Nationals were coming the following year to Pittsburgh. And so then I had a full year to train. Now I have a full year to train. So I told myself, oh my God, I'm going to train for a full year, and I'm going to do this freaking show, and I'm going to train like a madman. Now I'm really going to train, because the other ones I trained hard, obviously, but now I'm training against the whole country, So the steroids stayed the same. Off and on, you do your cycle and you get off, nothing crazy. Oh, and I forgot to mention there was Winstrol V in there too. Right. Yeah, that was a big steroid back then. Now I'm gonna train for a full year, and I trained for a full year, man, in 12th grade, and I won the Team Nationals at 18, and I think I tied a few people there for the youngest at that time, which was Frank Santarello. Yeah, you won the overall at 18, and back then people don't realize that was a very competitive show. It's not like it is today. There was a lot of heavy hitters in those shows. It was like a mini nationals almost. Yeah, well, I don't even think the show exists today, actually. No, it's around, but it's not, the competitive level is not there. Hey, Dave, look, honestly, man, between you and I, it breaks my heart to see that the sport, the teen stuff has died, and I believe it's died because the drug use had gotten out of control, and what kid at such a young age wants to do all of that? And one of the reasons why I got out of the sport was because as I got a little bit older, in my late teens, is when... I think we lost him for a second. Well, yeah, what he's referring to is that, let me see if we got him back here. George, we got you back? I'm here. Okay, yeah, we lost you for a second. You said you got out of it in your later teens because of what? Because as I started getting a little bit older, I started hearing, okay, well, if you're going to continue competing later on as a pro, then you got to start getting on the insulin and the growth hormone. And those were new drugs back then. Yeah. And if I couldn't afford it, and B, I was scared. So I believe the kids nowadays, who wants to do that? You know, and that's why we've lost the teenage category. That's why we've lost it. And it breaks my heart to see that we've lost all of that, you know?
Now, I think, was it Lou Zwick who discovered you and kind of put you on TV first?
Well, yeah, on TV, definitely. I had Peter Potter down here helping me, promoting me. I think Peter Potter put me in touch with Lou.
Yeah.
Peter Potter put me in touch with Lou.
Because you were on that American Muscle magazine all the time.
Correct.
They like to feature you. They used to follow you around. I saw you used to have workouts on there. I mean, that really made you kind of a star because American Muscle magazine was on ESPN. Everyone watched that.
Oh yeah, that was probably the best time in bodybuilding. But look, Dave, I'll be honest with you. I never stood still, man. It's a young age. I had my first business when I was 17 years old, man.
Yeah,
or 18.
Did you open your own gym?
What's that?
Did you open your own gym at 17?
I opened my own gym when I was 23 or 24.
Oh, okay.
But my first business, I used to sell cars with my dad.
Oh, wow.
At 18 or 19.
That's crazy.
With my own money.
Oh, so you would buy cars and then sell them at all, you know? From...
Yeah, used cars. But with bodybuilding, that's funny, huh?
Yeah.
With bodybuilding.
You imagine going in to buy a car and an 18-year-old kid is selling you a car? I would be a little nervous about buying a car from you.
I had some money saved and I gave my father, like, I think it was like $10,000 or $20,000. I gave it to my father and then my father would buy used cars for like $4,000, $3,000 and flip them for like $6,000, $7,000 and then we would split the profit.
Oh. Now, where were you at a young age have that much money? What were you doing to raise that kind of money?
Dude, my older brother, I have two older brothers. So my older brothers always taught me to save my pennies, man.
Yeah.
So my older brother was always very tight and he walked on his elbows, man, with his money. And he taught me to save every penny you get. And I started saving my money from when I was like 14. Oh, I used to personal train. So in 10th grade, I was already personal training people.
Really? There was probably no, that was like you were probably the first personal trainer of all time. Right? There were people, when personal training came about, people thought it would never catch on because everyone's like, who's going to pay someone to help them train at the gym?
You're right. You're absolutely
right. Remember that?
I used to watch people train people and I used to laugh. I used to go, what the heck is this person doing training someone? So when I won my first competition, the drug dealers in the gym used to hire me to train them. That's why in 12th grade, I kind of backed off from school because I was making so much money.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, I was making a few $100s a week. I think 1 week I made like $700, and I told the teacher, I go, I make more money than you. So in 12th grade, I wanted to focus on winning the teen nationals, and I was making so much money training people that I backed out from school and I decided to get my GED at night, and I just kept training people, and that's how I was able to save my money.
Right. Now, at what point did after you win the teen nationals, what happens? As far as opportunities for you, anything?
Well, Dave, it was very weird because after I won the teen nationals, like all bodybuilders, you're in this high trying to do something, and then you win. And then after I won, I kind of felt like alone, like 3 or 4 months after the hype wore off. I was like, okay, what now? How do you make money here?
Yeah.
I was expecting, again, remember, I'm a young kid. I was expecting a call from Joe Weider.
Yeah, of course. No one called, is what you're saying.
I'm 18 years old, no one calls me. And I'm like, okay, so now what? So I was kind of lost because I won this show in a high school auditorium or something. And I'm like, man, what's up with this sport? How do you make money? I'm here in a high school auditorium. I just won the biggest show for teenagers in the country. It's being held I remember telling Peter Potter that. I'm like, dude, what is this? What are these? We're in a high school auditorium, man. Get some chairs.
Did you think about moving out to Venice, California at that point?
No, because I was always very tight with my family. I remember Ed
Connors.
Connors came to see me, and I thought about it at the time. But
He probably loved you, I'm sure.
I think I would not even know what to do back then if I would have moved to California, because I couldn't even hold a job back then. I was so young. I probably would have held a job for 2 weeks and quit.
Right.
You know. So I'm glad that I didn't do that. So what did I do? Okay, so 4 months later, I'm feeling kind of like bummed out. Like, okay, now how do you make money? And then Lou told me, okay, George, look, you finally reach a level where you surpass everyone. You need to stay motivated yourself. Because before I was looking up to these people to stay motivated. Now I surpassed them. So now my motivation kind of like leveled off. Now I need to reach a new goal. And then back then I couldn't compete anymore as a teenager, because back then that would have been a taboo. You're taking away.
Right.
I couldn't go back the following year competing in the team nationals, because now you're taking the title away.
You would have destroyed everyone. You were too good. Yeah.
So I go, now what? I go, well, the next thing is, let me go compete in the opens class. So I'll do the Southern States. And I was just hoping, on the Southern States, I was just hoping to place in the top 12, And so I trained for that. I trained really hard. I think like 6 months or something. I was 19 at the time, and I began training for that. And there's when I finally put it together. And the Southern States came. I remember calling Peter Potter like 6 weeks before, nervous, like I wanted to quit. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it in the top 5. I'll be lucky if I make it in the top. He goes, just keep going. And dude, I don't know what the heck happened, man. I was cramping. Look, Dave, I can tell you something that worked to my benefit. That morning, I couldn't keep my hands open because I was cramping. Right. I had taken a Doctone, just a Doctone for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
Because prior to, I was too young prior to that. I didn't know. So somebody introduced me to a Doctone, and I started taking a Doctone maybe like, I don't know, maybe like 5 days before or something, very low dosage.
Right.
But I had cut my sodium way before that, maybe like 14 days before. Because the Pareto performance stuff was you cut your sodium and the whole thing.
Sure.
So I started cramping up before the prejudging. I couldn't open up my hand. My toes were cramping. My hands. So my buddy who helped me, Eddie Nieves, tells me, get some junk in you. Get some junk food in you. I'm like, what? He goes, get some junk food in you. So the first man that I saw was a buddy of mine. He comes with a bag of Burger King. And he had like a Whopper and cheeseburgers and fries and onion rings. And he had I always remember, what is it? Fruit punch in there. Fruit punch, container fruit punch. So I get a hamburger. The guy freaked out because I just stuck my hand in there. I got a hamburger and I stole his fries and his fruit punch. And he was looking at me like, what the heck is this guy doing? He's going to eat this shit now? Dude, and I ate that stuff. And within minutes, the cramps started going away, And I guess I still had like an hour or two before prejudging. And that stuff just sucked everything, all that water, I guess, all that little bit of spillage out of me. And it dried me up even more. And that's, so I did the prejudging. But by the nighttime, I looked even better, man. Like it was just, that's the first time that I had ever done that, Sure. And it was crazy, man. I peaked and I peaked the way you're supposed to peak, I had never done that before. And I looked amazing, And at that time, unfortunately, the trend was pretty physiques, symmetrical.
Right.
And lean. And for me, I wasn't a big guy, but I had the pretty physique, and I got lean for that show, and that's what they were looking for. And I won the overall.
Yeah, you looked amazing for that show, and that's really put you on the map. So at that point, you have to say to yourself, this is one of the biggest regional shows in the country, aside from doing a national show. You had to think you were on your way. I'm sure everyone was telling you you were.
It was crazy, man. Imagine, Dave, I'm 19 years old. I've won every show that I've entered.
Right.
Big ego. This is all you've done with your life. everybody tells you you're the best, and so you start believing that hype, you know.
Yeah.
I started when I was 13 and a half years old, and believing the hype is not good, but unfortunately that's what happened to me, you know. I didn't have a coach, like for example, had I had you teaching me,
right,
hey George, you need to stay humble, you know, or somebody older teaching me, I would have been different, but I didn't have none of that. I did everything on my own. Believe it or not, I did everything on my own.
Yeah, well, no one had coaches back then, really. Very few people.
Yeah, that wasn't against the rules. That wasn't against the rules.
Yeah. So where do you go from there? What happens after that?
Okay, so my goal at that moment was always by one of the men that helped me out. But at this point he wasn't around because he had become a cop. He got married. He always told me, he goes, George, you need to give yourself a deadline. If by 21 years old you're not making any money, you need to get out. So my deadline was 21 years old. So my goal was to compete. Okay, so after that I did then after that I went into what show was it? I went into the men's nationals after that. I was 19 years old, but the nationals was 8 weeks after the Southern States.
Right.
So that would have put me at 20 weeks of dieting.
Wow.
I had never dieted that long. So I wanted to enter the men's nationals to see if I could even place. But by the time the nationals came, I was completely burned out. Not that I would have won, not that of anything. I think, honestly, I could have probably placed top 6. Had I shown up the way that I shown up at the Southern States, maybe top 5, 4, nothing better than that. But I became a noodle. I had never dieted that long. I wanted to quit. Just a bad experience.
What were you weighing on stage during that competition year?
At the Southern States or the Nationals?
Southern States.
68.
Okay, so you were at middleweight, essentially.
Yeah, I weighed in at 164.
So you were a lightweight. Wow.
I weighed in at 164.
Or no, you were a welterweight, but they didn't have welterweight, did they back then?
No, I was a middleweight.
Yeah, so you were a very small middleweight.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think by the night time I weighed 167, but weight didn't matter back then. It's what you look like. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I would have told you I weighed 174, you would have believed it? Yeah,
of course. You had very small joints and small waist and big muscle bellies. So,
correct.
Okay. What happened? You stopped at some point.
Okay, so what happened was, my goal was okay, I'm not making money. How do you make money out of this sport? How do you make money out of this sport? I'm a young kid. I don't have people guiding me. So I go, okay, my goal is by 21. If I'm not making money by 21, I'm going to get out. So the growth hormones started coming in, the insulin, all that stuff started scaring me. I didn't want to live that lifestyle for some reason. I'm like, man, I don't think I could do this forever. Mm-hmm. And then the pressure of not losing, that stuff just started building in me, man. Like it became this thing that I just had too much pressure and I had to live up to everyone. Remember, Dave, I'm a kid. I'm not an adult.
Right. And you had no one really helping you, like you said.
Yeah. So what happened was this thing started boiling in me that I had to live up to everyone, that I had to win. Had I lost a few competitions in the beginning, it would have been amazing. It would have been great. Kind of like maybe like Jay Cutler or everybody else. You lose a few to then win. You understand? I didn't know how to lose.
Right.
So I was just living this bodybuilding lifestyle, man, that was just crazy. Eat, sleep, and train. Eat, sleep, and train. Eat, sleep, and train. Screw everyone around me. This is my life. I'm gonna do everything to win. But it started boiling up, man, in me because I just won all the shows, and I had to live up to everyone. And everyone, you're the best. You're the best. You're gonna be the next thing. And what happened was I told myself, okay, I'm going to be the youngest pro besides Sean Ray and Shane DeMora. I'm going to be the next youngest pro. I'm going to do the USA at 20. At that, not the youngest pro ever, but during that time, I wanted to be like the youngest pro during that era. And so I'm going to compete in the USA. But when the USA came, I tore my pec. I had a slight pec tear.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had a slight pec tear, and I got operated, and it came out fine. So that put me off on the USA, and I was looking phenomenal. So then I go, okay, that put me, okay, so we had a little misstep there, We'll do it the following year. During that era, I could still be one of the youngest at 21. So I started training for the following year for the USA at 21. To be the youngest at 21 during that era, I started training, and some photographers from LA came down to shoot me, like 6 weeks before the show. Evan Gelb came down to shoot me. He goes, George, you look phenomenal. I just saw Dennis Newman. You're going to beat him. I swear to God, he told me that, man.
Really?
Yeah. Hurricane Andrew came.
Oh, wow.
Right before he had come down, and it blew the rooftop of the gym. But I had continued training, and I was already burned out, man, because of the hurricane. And it just, for some reason, it just built too much pressure on me. I kept training. As a matter of fact, after Hurricane Andrew came, there was no roof in the gym. Well, I mean, there was a roof, but there was a hole. So I showed up the next day at the gym, and I knocked on the window, and the owner's looking at me like freaking out. Dude, don't you see there's a hole on the roof? There's water coming in. And I'm like, dude, I need to train. And he's like pointing, he's calling the insurance company, And I'm like, no, I need to train. So the freaking guy opens the door, and he lets me in to train, man. I was the only person at the gym training. I trained, but the pressure just started building. I'm going, dude, what am I doing, man? People are sleeping on the hospitals. I'm training without a roof. There's a hurricane. There's no light in my house. And that was it, man. I couldn't do it anymore. That was it.
So you quit.
And I was 20. I was going to be 21 years old.
Wow.
And that was my goal.
And you never competed after that?
No, I went and I opened up a gym after that.
Wow.
3 years after that, I opened up a gym.
What was the name of the gym?
The name of the gym was called Inch by Inch Personal Training.
Wow. And so it was a personal training gym?
It was a personal training gym. We paid off, me and some retired police officer. We paid off the gym in 3 months, and we started paying ourselves money back. And he kept telling me, George, you don't understand. This is the best business I've ever. He had opened up already like 3 businesses, so he knew about business. I didn't to that level. He's like, George, you don't understand. We're making money. I'm like, what do you mean? Is this good? And he goes, yeah, man, we're making good money. And he goes, dude, you don't understand. We paid off the gym in 3 months. I'm like, okay. I didn't know.
Right.
I was making $65,000-$70,000 clean.
Wow.
After taxes at that time.
So that was big time for you because you couldn't do that bodybuilding, obviously.
No, that's why Lee Haney used to win.
Yeah, exactly. So you stopped. So that was it. No more competing after that. You just focused on the gym.
It was a turning point in my life. I wasn't happy. I was sad for many, many years because bodybuilding was my love. That was my passion. It was what I wanted to do. But I needed to grow up. I didn't have a job prior to this. I had put all my eggs into bodybuilding because I was so young. I was still living with my parents. And because I was living with my parents, I was able to take advantage of living with my parents and putting all my energy into bodybuilding. Right. So when I got out of bodybuilding, it was like, okay, now I need to grow up and start making a life for myself. And I was lost. I was very lost, which I'm sure you've heard. A lot of bodybuilders get lost when they quit bodybuilding.
Yeah. Well, I think it's you bring up a really good point because I think a lot of teenage we went through your whole career, but the bottom line is that teenage bodybuilding sometimes doesn't work out for a lot of guys because you are very immature. It makes you emotionally dead pretty much because you don't grow up during all those years you're training. And now all of a sudden you're presented with the real world and having to actually make a living and doing. Luckily, you were a go-getter and you were not a lazy guy. So you started making a living for yourself, and obviously that was your motivation at that point because now you felt like you were able to sustain yourself and make a good living for yourself, I'm sure. Right.
Well, what happened was the way that I was able to succeed in life is like many bodybuilders have done it, like you, Arnold, or whatever. I kept reading, the books with Arnold, and the way to succeed in life was, okay, if you were able to do this in bodybuilding and had this discipline, well, if you put that discipline into anything else, you should be able to succeed. So I was able to turn that energy from bodybuilding and working out and put it into business, which was the gym.
Right.
The waking up in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, opening up the doors for the customers and greeting the customers. You know, at one point we were up to, I had at the gym, I had up to 5 personal trainers working for me, and we were doing at the highs. I was doing up to like 55 sessions a day.
Wow.
So it was,
wow.
Yeah, I did great. But I hated it.
Yeah, well, yeah, you get burnt out on personal training very quickly, very quickly.
I hated it because I always felt like I was a slave to the customer, and I always felt there was something bigger for me. Right. So during those 8 years that I had the gym, I was a little bit down mentally. Like, man, I love bodybuilding, man. You know, this is what, I wanted. It was in my heart, man, just like anybody else, It was in my heart. And then one of those years, I bumped into a guy named Fabian who had moved to Argentina, and he had launched a supplement company. So I saw him at the Southern States, and he goes, "Hey, Chiqui," because they used to call me Chiquitin for short. And by the way, during all those years that I had the gym, I always kept training. I just didn't train for competition or anything. Right. So, and I was able to buy my house, my first car. Yeah.
Well, that was your nickname, I remember, Chick, right?
Chiquitin, Chick.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hey, Chicky." He starts touching me here. Chicky. I went to Argentina and I launched a company, supplements. And I'm doing great over there, blah, 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 blah. Why don't you come with me and we start doing supplements together? And I'm like, oh, man, this is what I always wanted to do. And in reality, honestly, I always wanted to see my face on a supplement line. As a teenager, I wanted to do that. Yeah. But I didn't know how. And I thought about it during my gym, when I had the gym, but it was a backdoor dream. Like, that cost too much money. I don't have the money to do that. Yeah. When I ran into this guy, this buddy of mine, he goes, "Hey, George, you put the money." He tells me, "You put the money." You know what this is going. This is not going. This is not going to turn out good. No. You put the money, and we use my company name and your image, and we'll start selling supplements. So what happened was, I had some money saved, and we launched one product under his company name with my image, and we start selling this product, which was a liquid fat burner. We kind of copied VPX with a syringe, and it had a Fedra. Gotcha. And the product starts selling. We start selling a few thousand a month down here with the distributor. Wow. And I think it was 700. I think we got up to like 700 units a month. Mm-hmm. But within 3 months, I find out that my partner, where I had put the money, my partner is ripping me off. Oh, shit. So that relationship didn't end up good. I ended up getting an attorney. I told my wife, listen, look, just consider it a college education. Yeah, a very expensive one at that. Well, it wasn't that expensive. Well, for the time it was for me, but it wasn't big dollars like we count big dollars today. And I learned that you had to get a manufacturer, you had to get a label, you had to get a bottle, you had to create a look, you had to create a website. And I learned all of that. I go, okay, now I'm going to do it on my own. And that's where I started with my own brand. And I launched 3 or 4 or 5 SKUs under the Betancourt name. I remember when you called me up when you originally did it. I don't even know why you called me, but you had called me to send me some of your products. You had these little candies, right? The creatine candies? The chewables. Yeah, they were great. They were delicious. Creatine and glutamine chewables. Yeah. Because I was a hustler, man. I used to call everyone. I was a hustler. Yeah. Just like you are. Hey, man, look at you. You've made it out of bodybuilding. Yeah, you have to be. You have to be proactive. You went out there and we talked. I remember we were talking on the phone for a good hour and a half, and I was like, man, that's pretty good. And I don't know if I hadn't started my company yet, so I picked up a lot of information from you, how maybe I should get started when I eventually started in 07. So you gave me a lot of ideas, and I say, if George could do it, I could do it. I said, and I didn't really know how to go about it, but you kind of gave me some to start thinking about it. And the next 5 years, I thought about it. It's you got to put yourself out there and have your ears always open and listen to others, and you just gotta put your heart into it and be willing to put everything into it. My idols growing up for like a sports nutrition company was Lee Labrada. You know, I wanted to be the next Lee Labrada.
Sure.
And then when I started my company, then it was Gaspari, you know, and so on.
Now you, in 14, you actually sold the company to Vitamin Shop.
Correct. In 2014, we sold the company. After 12 years, I think, 12 years, we sold the company to Vitamin Shop. Yep.
Did you, I'm assuming you cashed out pretty well.
I did well. Yes, I did.
Did that make you feel like, wow, validated? Because now here you are, you have a nice nest egg of money in the bank. You have no pressure to do anything on yourself at this point, and now you can kind of like think about what you really want to do because you don't have to do anything.
Well, you know, Dave, again, that's a very weird feeling, man. I've worked all my life. It was cool for like 2 months. I had a little problem there. I had a non-compete for 3 years.
Gotcha.
So I couldn't work for 3 years. I was getting paid for 3 years. I had an accident right when I sold the company. I'll get into that in a minute. So not working was very strange for me, and having money, I had never had money before. You know, I've always been saving money. And when I cashed out, it's really because I had business partners in my company.
Sure.
So it's not like if the company makes $100,000, you're gonna go and grab $100,000 and take it home. It doesn't work that way. You know, you have payroll, you have your salary, and everybody has a salary. So you don't really make your money until you sell the company. So when I sold the company, it's when I finally ran into a big amount of money, and it's weird because now I have money. And then that enthusiasm and drive kind of goes down a little bit, you know? And that was a very weird, I had, in the last few years, I had to like start gaining that motivation and drive again, you know? I kind of lost that for a while.
Now you injured yourself really bad, right? You had a car accident, I believe?
No, I had a slip and fall in my house.
Okay.
Not too many people know about this. I kind of kept it quiet. I was running out of my house to go say hi to the neighbor, and I slipped on the stairs, and the 2 steps that I have in front of my house, and a cement, one of the steps hit me on one of my vertebrae.
Oof.
And it broke, and I broke one of the vertebrae. My back didn't break in half, but it chipped one of the bones, and it was a big dilemma. I was in and out of hospitals for 2 years.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that severe.
Yeah, man, it was terrible.
So would you wind up with screws in your back?
8 screws in my back.
Nice. I thought I did a number on myself. I tore my quad slipping on a staircase, and I'm still dealing with it. So it's always the freak accidents they get you. You know. You know,
one of the things I want to point out is, you know, when I know that you've had Ronnie Coleman in your show and stuff like that, and people all blame it on the working out and the whole thing. And dude, it's so far from that. It's not even funny. Like, for example, all my discs were completely healthy when I got to the hospital.
Right.
What was broken was a bone on my back.
Yeah.
Okay. So it had nothing to do with working out. But so with Ronnie Coleman, you know, they all blame it on all these workouts and all that. And it hurts me, man. It really hurts me because you know, you could have one accident. For example, I had one accident that led to 3 operations.
Right. Yeah,
just one accident.
You created a weakness there with that accident.
Unfortunately, Ronnie Coleman had an accident that, you know, shit happens, but you can't just keep pointing the finger at him, man.
Well, you know what? Everyone likes to say, I told you so, because then they can feel good about themselves not achieving what he achieved. And I think that's why they do that.
That's why I kept my stuff to myself, because I didn't want people. And it's funny because I've told people my story about my back, and they forget what happened. And then a year later, they tell me, oh, that's because they're working out, right? And I'm like, I told you 3 times. I slipped and I fell in front of my
Now, George, we're running a little short on time, so I just want you to just tell people, nowadays, you got through the accident, you obviously still have money in the bank. what do you do for motivation now? What's your new? I know you want to get back into the industry. What's your thinking process right now in terms of what you would like to do to feel fulfilled? Because you're obviously still a young man.
Dave, look, I got my money. I reinvested my money in real estate. And because that is so easy for me now, I kind of lost that drive. What am I doing for motivation again? I'm trying to motivate my mind just like I did with bodybuilding, but I'm doing it little by little, right? But I don't want to go too crazy because then I'm going to disconnect from the family. So I'm going to remotivate the mind, but not to 110%, maybe to 85.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to get back in the industry little by little, but at 85%, not at 110, 120, because what's...
Right. You want to start another company, or you want to compete?
No.
I thought I'd throw that out there, figuring like, yeah.
You know what? Look, honestly, if I was healthy, I'll be competing, man.
I know you would. I can see it in your eyes.
I want to get back. I want to launch another company, but at a smaller scale.
Yeah.
And I'll be social media sales and stuff like that. And then I'll take it from there and see where it goes, you know?
Well, you know what? Hey, I love hearing your story. It brings back memories of, from the 80s and 90s. You really were a success. You really turned out to be a success story, because a lot of people felt, obviously here was a teenage prodigy, so to speak, who disappeared from the scene. Everyone thought, another casualty of the sport, and you wound up actually being more successful than most people ever are. So congratulations with that.
Thank you,
and it's
man.
always great talking to you. And you know what? I'm always eager to hear what your next big project you got planned is.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, and continued success, man. I'm happy, to see you still doing it, man.
Thanks, man. I'm like you. I got to stay motivated. I got to stay involved. I got to keep my brain, constantly thinking.
Keep moving forward, man.
That's right. Hey, good luck in the future. And like I said, keep us updated. I always love to talk to you.
Thank you, Dave. You too.
All right. And that's going to take us to the end of another episode of Live With, brought to you by Species Nutrition. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next time.